Today we're heading down to Canley Vale, part of the Fairfield electorate. It's located about 40 minutes from the heart of the Sydney CBD and has a population where more than 50% of residents have parents born overseas. For decades, the area has been a safe Labor seat, but in the past few years, things have changed and the area is now heavily contested. The result has been a huge influx of candidates from the major parties as well as independents, all of whom are having to really knuckle down and campaign. It didn't take long for things to get heated, with signs, which appear everywhere, being vandalised and pulled down. We're checking out a new section of the Prairie Wood Leisure Park, a pretty impressive water castle. Several members of the council running in the election actually voted against the addition, but such is the climate of the election, they couldn't risk not being seen there, indicative of just how dynamic this election is. Now only a few days away from the election, we sat down with Dai Lee, who up until recently carried the torch for the Liberal Party, but decided to run as an independent, receiving a 10-year ban from the Liberals for doing so. We spoke about the government's willingness to adapt and whether or not the party in charge is interested in change or just keeping up appearances. First, Dai Lee tells us a little bit about the climate in her camp a week from the election.
Well, the climate's actually quite tense.
Really, yeah.
Because obviously, in an area like Fairfield City Council, for many, many years, there hasn't been that much political campaigning because it's considered a very safe Labor seat. And since 2008, since I stepped into this arena, wearing a political badge of the Liberal Party, it has caused created a lot of dynamics out here.
Sure.
And what I'm observing and what I see is that the political candidates that we see at the moment are mainly, male, the male species rather
Sure.
than the female, species.
Yeah.
So that in itself is also another dynamic to the whole political process that we're having.
Is it resulting in people happy with the choice, or are they a little bit frustrated, or are they?
Look, what I think is that people are actually having to look at who they're going to vote for. So therefore there is a choice for them. But what I have done, I believe, is given people a real choice. Is that I'm not just anybody, a hack that goes in there and just putting my face. I actually go out there and I campaign and actually listen to what the needs are, what the issues are, and campaign on those issues. I think people are really, woken up to the fact that they can choose.
Right.
They can go out there and choose, and there are some actual genuine candidates that they can choose from.
Sure.
And not just go to just vote blindly for Labor like they have done for many, many decades out here.
What does that experience tell you about the people in power's perception of change? Do they want change, or is there change only okay once they approve of it?
In the work that I do through Dawn, it's about knocking on those doors that are held by mainly Anglo-Saxon men that are currently in our senior leadership positions, from institutions such as corporate, banking, media, to Parliament. If you look at that, it really doesn't reflect the society that we currently have. And so it is a challenge to actually knock on those doors. But for me, it's not an adversarial, from an adversarial perspective. It's about asking those men to say, how diverse and how reflective are your leadership team? Does it reflect the community? Does it reflect the society? Maybe it's not even about statistics or evidence, but what one ought to do. What is the right thing to do?
Sure.
And how do you want a local community to thrive? How do you want the state to thrive? How do you want the nation to grow and develop and prosper? And it can't come from just your one perspective. How are you going to make social policies for a community such as, say, Fairfield, where it's very diverse, where people are struggling, there are a lot of disadvantage. How do you know that what those experiences are like if you don't have somebody from that community in your teams? And I think to have that balance is very hard to achieve, but you need to work towards that balance.
Sure. Well, do you think now that you seeing as you know the kind of scaffold for what needs to be done what needs to be implemented for change, do you think that some of the big guys like Liberal and like Labor are kind of more interested in keeping up appearances than any actual change? In terms of, literal appearance of the white dude in a suit with a blue tie, as well as just, being able to kind of have their people wherever they want them.
You mean lip service?
Lip service, yeah. Do you think that they're more interested in that than actual change? Is it the more the quick fix than it is to actually get anything done?
I think there is that sense that, look, let's pay lip service to it. Not, they don't say that, but look, let's comply. Let's do something
Smile
to tick
and
the
nod.
box,
Yeah.
right? To make sure that you've done it. In terms of the gender movement, okay, we're going to make sure that we have 50% of women. Some organisations have that, have a quota. Let's tick the boxes, and that's where I disagree with the quota, because I think that if you have a quota, it doesn't actually shift people's mindset. It doesn't shift the dial. Those who are pro-quotas would disagree with me strongly, because they think that at least you start off somewhere by having a quota. But I think that that's a lazy way, because you think, well, people tick the boxes, they go home, they go to their work, they come back. Are they going to shift and understand why there is a need to have 50% of women on boards, in parliament, or across organisations? Because think about it logically, it's 52% of the population are women.
Sure, yeah.
And yet they don't even think about that. I mean, they're starting to, major corporations are. I know that the Commonwealth Bank, for instance, have got this target that by 2025, that their senior leadership positions will reflect the population in Australia, which is a quarter, about a quarter of the population of non-English speaking backgrounds. So that is their target. So if you look across many boards and if you look at our parliamentary system, the majority are still Anglo-white males. So I don't think they've set a target for that. I know that the Labor Party has set a target for women. The Liberal Party is yet to set a target, but at state level, I know that the Premier has set a target of 50% of women in leadership roles. But for me, the issue is not just gender, the issue is culture. Culture in terms of thinking, culture in terms of representation, that will include culture in terms of gender, and culture in terms of cultural heritage as well. So it is, I understand it's a complex issue.
You mentioned that on a federal level they've got the quota of 50%. I forgot the year.
Yeah.
But how can you kind of have that quota in place and then also be sending out the message that no, if you are slightly different to the storyline that we want to tell, you'll be excluded? Do you think that that's kind of counterproductive to have both of those on the table?
Well, I'm sure it is counterproductive to say, we want to have 50% of women, and then on the other hand, the other arm is saying, well, no, you can't do it because you didn't, comply, or you didn't, whatever. Yes, it is counterproductive, but I think for major organisations, sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, because it's so big. Major institutions. There are really genuine people in these institutions that do really want to see our leadership levels be more reflective. But it's really, it's a long process. But what needs to happen is that conversations need to be, the momentum needs to be maintained. We need to call it out, and to say what can we do to address it.
Now that you actually mentioned before, you've been door knocking today and you've been putting in the legwork really over the past couple of weeks. From your perspective, I understand it's going to be difficult to be objective about this, but what leader do you think, from the data that you've collected, that the Fairfield wants?
What they're also saying is somebody who actually is genuine, who has integrity, who's a real person, someone who's genuinely caring for the people, and is not, not using council or any other level of power, government, as a platform for their progress or their career, development. In this area of Fairfield, we've got over 120 different nationalities, right? Including Anglo-Australians. I speak to them as much as to anybody else. What I have is uniquely different in that I'm a refugee, so I can understand the refugee experience. I come from a broken home, so I understand what disadvantages means. But I rose through the ashes, so I then can actually say to people, just because you got nothing doesn't mean you can't grow, right? So you actually have the potential in yourself to actually make a difference.
The fact that someone as big as the Liberal Party wouldn't see that and adapt their plan to shift to suit the local electorate, was that a surprise to you?
Major political parties are Labor, Liberal, whatever. I get that they do have a process in place. They have a constitution that they supposedly follow when they want to follow. When they don't want to follow, they don't follow.
Right.
And whoever the majority of people in a party, I'm not talking about just Liberal but major parties, are often very detached from what's happening at a local level. If you walk down the corridors of Parliament House, be it state or federal, you will see how isolated those members of Parliament are from the reality of life.
Right.
They sit in their wonderful white walls, white doors, big buildings, and they actually especially those in safe seats, I don't believe, I mean, there'll be a handful of them who are really genuinely engaged, but a lot of them are about building numbers, building their power base, and that's so funny. One of the residents that I just door knocked this morning said to me, he asked me, did you see the election in the Northern Territory where that what's his name, Bill, anyway, the National Liberals got thrown out. I think they're now down to 3 seats, 17 seats, majority. They're down to 3 seats, and I said to Graham, I said, I know. He goes because the major parties aren't representative of the people anymore. They don't understand what's happening with the major parties, and they want a third party.
Right.
They say to me, we think a third party should come back. Not the small, kind of mad
big guy,
independents.
another big
Major party has to be formed, because we don't want Labor, we don't want Liberal. Who do we choose? Right. So therefore, people then get involved, they react. And so what we did in the Northern Territory. So I said to Graham, I know. I said, after the Newman Campbell got thrown out of office in Queensland, the last election, it was a huge one-term one as well. And I said, watch this space, because what's happening in politics moving forward is that the media, the social media in particular, an organisation like yours, that's been set up, are finding voice for people who are so sick and tired of being taken for granted by major parties.
Right.
For me, it's about the people of my background in particular, who came here with nothing, who can't speak English, but are now working and contributing, and their children are paying taxes. Why aren't they seeing? Why are we seeing them more in leadership positions? So I need to mobilise it. I need to get that going. I need to get them thinking about what they can do to contribute back to the Australian society that has given us an opportunity.
Sure. Awesome. Well, I guess they're kind of all the questions that we needed to kind of pin you down for today.
Thank you for today.
Yeah, there'll be more, I'm sure.
I know,
but,
yeah.
No, I understand there's probably more door knocking to do, so we won't take up any more of your time. But thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Cool.